Welcome to episode 81 of Cougs on Cougs. This is Jess. I'm Mary. It is the week after the Holy War, and we find ourselves at 1-2 on the season.
And 0-7.
Yes, 0-7. Yeah, so not exactly what we had hoped for. Still some things to be encouraged about. You will not find us being all doom and gloom this week, although we certainly will address some things that can hopefully improve. But as always, should we start with our notable quotable?
Yes. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. It's from C.S. Lewis. Which I do really like that one because you're right, you're 1-2. You've had a couple really poor offensive performances
in a
against
row.
A couple of teams. Can't go back and change that at all, but you can start where you are and change the ending of the season. So there's still plenty of time
left. Oh my gosh, it's so early. We can still end with not only a winning record, but an impressive record. So all hope is not lost, but here's to hoping that we start where we are and change the ending. Should we get into coaching from the couch?
Yes, let's get it over with. I kind of want to, I'm at the point I just want to put this game behind me and not think about it again ever.
For sure.
So, Coach Blanchard, what went wrong for you?
Let's start with what went wrong. I hate to rail on defense because defense is doing enough to give us a chance to win. Holding them to 19 points is pretty impressive, although obviously the less the better. I just wanted to talk about there were two specific drives with defense that really frustrated me. Both of them resulted in points scored. Mm-hmm. So the first one that came to mind was there was one drive towards the very end of the game. I think it was Utah's second to last offensive drive where they had 3rd and 1 3 times, and they converted all 3 times to get into field goal range and make it 19 instead of 16, which I think, I mean, it was just a nail in the coffin. Like, we didn't manage to score another time anyway, but, you know, what that does to momentum and everything. And then there was another 3rd down play where I believe it was 3rd and 12. We stopped them from getting the conversion, but we were offsides. So I can't remember if they got a field goal or a touchdown. I know they got points off of that, but it was one of our more costly penalties, and you can't afford to give that up. I mean, no matter how good the defense is, if you're giving that play up on 3rd and 12 to allow points, it's just not acceptable. Another quick thing I wanted to mention that leads into Coach Tyler's what went wrong is I got pretty frustrated, and you know that we're huge Jonah fans here on this show, and I think that Jonah has proven himself, and he's shown how fast he can be, and he gets open all the time, and it's almost like Tanner just is ignoring him, and I don't mean to say that to rail on Tanner, but, you know, he has his targets that he prefers in, you know, Matt Bushman, Talon Shumway, and sometimes I feel like he's just not looking at Jonah. And I will say that on our last play, on the 4th and 4, Jonah was open over the top in space.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could go back. I wish I had time to go back and look at film and see where Jonah is on a lot of these plays.
I'll tell you where he is open.
I know. Well, it does seem like he's way underutilized this season for some reason. But
yeah,
can we just talk 1 second about his kickoff return?
Of course.
He almost single-handedly changed the outcome of that game.
It's so funny because he just barely got tripped, but when you're going that fast, all someone has to do is blow on you and you fall over. But the wheels on that kid are just unbelievable, and I don't know if it's the way that Jonah fits into the system. I don't know if it's chemistry between Tanner and Jonah, but I would really like to see Jonah have some more opportunities.
Well, speaking of receivers, this is my what went wrong for the week, too. So I wanted to talk about this tweet from Gargabell because he was really nice and broke it down for us about the targets and the catches in the Utah game.
Because dropped passes were something that were talked about a lot after that game, especially on the last drive.
So last week, my what went wrong was Tanner and his performance and all that.
Yeah.
I felt like this week Tanner played a lot better. He was throwing a lot better. You know, catchable balls, all of that. He was,
at least in the second half.
Yeah. You know, he was maybe not getting it out as quick as before, but he was going through his progressions better and finding the open guy. But there were a lot of times where he threw very catchable balls, caught the guys in their hands, or, you know, where they could easily get it, and it was just dropped. And in a game like this, especially towards the end of that game, that last drive, everyone saw it. You know, you're desperate at that point. You've got like a minute left, trying to get a first down, and your receivers keep dropping balls. But if you look at this breakdown of the targets and the catches, it's really not great, especially when you know so many of those were very catchable.
Absolutely. Let's move on to happier things with what went right. For me, so my what went wrong was on the defense, but I had to show some love too. For the Warner brothers, because Fred got a fumble recovery and then Troy got a fumble recovery. And I especially wanted to talk about the first one with Fred because pretty much ever since the LSU game started, we've been waiting for a spark of literally any kind. And we didn't get it. We didn't, in the first half of the Utah game, we did not get it. We were moving the ball a little better. I think we had gotten the ball past half field in the first half, but there's still
actually had a touchdown that was taken away, so that was an improvement.
Totally.
Unfortunately, don't come away with points, but yeah.
Right.
So you are still looking for something.
Yeah, the first half was still a little stagnant, but then in the second half, I think it was pretty early in the third quarter, Fred comes away with that fumble recovery, and I really think, honestly, that was the spark that we've been waiting for like 8-9 quarters, because we were able to, on the drive right after that, the offensive drive, we did get our first touchdown.
Well, when you're talking about a defense that is built on trying to cause turnovers.
Yeah.
That was the first turnover that they had caused, and you capitalize, and then you score, and that's how it should be.
Exactly.
So one thing that I did like about Fred, too, that I noticed when I watched a few of these plays over, was that after that missed field goal, Fred was the first guy on the sideline, no, like, disappointment or bad body language or anything. He just put his helmet on, and he got right back on the field, like your true leader, captain leader should be. So I thought that was really nice to see from Fred.
For sure. Definitely shout out to both of the Warner brothers. Troy's was awesome too.
Definitely.
So, okay, what's your what went right?
My what went right is that I think we finally have our running back, which is Ulu.
Could opening up the running game help us maybe?
It really could help. I mean,
totally.
And you put him in, he didn't play really until the third quarter for some reason. And then he came in and we got a touchdown. I think he ended up with like 5 rushes for 25 yards. There isn't a ton, but he had a touchdown. And it was actually moving the ball. So he ended up being your leading rusher, and I think he had, what does that average out to, 5
yards per carry?
Rush.
Yeah.
So best on the team. He looked great. He looked confident. He looked big. Mm-hmm. And I think that was giving everybody else confidence to have him come in there and actually get some yards. To be able to move the ball
on the ground, I think was just and
just have that option
for everyone to see.
So I was really excited to see that, and I hope we get to see a lot more of him, that he's 100% now, and that he can just be the guy. All right, we're going to start Talk the Town with basketball this week.
Yes, basketball!
And usually basketball always starts with Jimmer, because it always comes back to Jimmer somehow. This tweet is from Sadie Nixon, and she says, I just airballed in front of Jimmer. How's your day going? So this was, I think, part of the Jimmerosity thing, right?
Yeah.
And so, they're in the Pleasant Grove High School gym.
Which is where she goes.
Airballing in front of him. So, sorry.
That is pretty embarrassing.
Yeah.
I'm glad that
she's a great player, though. I know.
Totally. And she was in a dress.
She was. So, we'll give her a pass.
Speaking of Jimmer, we had to share this tweet from his father-in-law, Rich Wanacott, who is at Cougar Rich on Twitter. He said, this was obviously during the Holy War week, he said, when Jimmer Fredette asked for my daughter's hand in marriage, I asked, what was your record against Utah? Jimmer said 7-1, and Rich said that he blessed that union. I wonder, is what he's saying here, if it would have been 1-7, that we wouldn't have Jimmer and Whitney?
I mean, probably. I love Whitney's response.
Yeah, me too.
6-0 as a starter. That's what Whitney said back.
So even better than Jimmer made it sound.
Keeping with basketball, Pat, Crazy Coug Fanatic, tweeted out that she bumped into some of the basketball team at the football game on Saturday.
She pretty much bumped into the whole basketball team.
So you got TJ Haas and Luke Worthington back from mission.
Good.
And Ryan Andrews back from mission with a interesting mustache.
Interesting? That's a nice word for terrible.
Well, no, I'm being nice.
She also ran into Nick Emery. I saw Elijah there. I saw Yoli there. So it's always fun to see them out and supporting. And can I just say, me and Pat were talking about Luke, and he I think that he lost whatever baby fat he had before his mission, and he is looking really good.
Which we will need.
Yes, excellent. Hopefully
good work,
that
Luke.
will speed
Keep
him up. This tweet is from Harvey Unga at Unga45. He said that in his 3 years playing at BYU, that they started with records 1-2, and they ended with 11-2, 10-3, and 11-2. And he just emphasized the point we've been making all day, which is the season's not over, and you can end with a record like that. There is a comment from Andrew George in this thread calling Harvey out, so I don't know. We didn't go back and check the years. Maybe we should have. But regardless of whether it's true or not, the principle is the same. Plenty of teams have started 1 and 2 and ended in great shape.
Right, and Ty Demers talked about that too. Some of his seasons where they did not start out very well and ended great. So
we're not swearing by this exact tweet, but we are swearing by the principle.
All right, so it was Tanner's birthday last week. We tweeted about that. It was the day before the Utah game.
It's our favorite gif of him.
Yes, of course. So we wanted to share this post too. This is from his brother Madison. Posted this on Instagram. And it's a side-by-side comparison of him jokingly saying it was Tanner before his mission, which it was. It wasn't right before his mission, but, you know, probably
what's he, like
middle
12
school?
or 13?
Yeah, something like that. And then now, I think Parker Mingham commented on this and said that his Facebook comment or his Facebook status of this picture was the future of BYU. And he's right. Here he is. Here's
wow.
Mingham, so
prophecy fulfilled.
Cool
there.
To see their dreams come true.
Yeah, it is. Speaking of Tanner, we did want to touch on his situation very quickly. So as far as we know, he tweaked his ankle. So we tweeted a video of it. Go check it out. We don't have official word. Mm-hmm. So obviously there's cause for concern. He's in a boot precautionarily. From what we understand, it's not broken. He falls on it very awkwardly. He kind of trips and falls right on top of his ankle.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, Jeremiah saw said this, and obviously they're hoping for a sprain, you know, a light sprain
something
instead
you can
of
wrap really well and still play on and not limit you too much.
Ligament, you don't want ligament damage.
Yeah, so that's the problem about Coach Satake. He doesn't like to talk about injuries at all.
No.
So we may not know anything until right before the game.
Kalani was super big about it. All Ty said was that he acknowledged the ankle injury. He said that he thought he was treated for it and was fine. But of course Ty is going to say that because we want Wisconsin to prepare for Tanner regardless. But definitely keep your fingers crossed for Tanner because he deserves this season and we want to continue to see progress from him.
Yes, we do.
Last thing
is that this is from The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. He always says this superlatives with NFL players. Mm-hmm. We want to bring this one up because he included Danny Sorensen in it. So his superlative was most likely to cosplay at a Sound of Music convention, which is pretty good. I mean, he's
spot on, especially with that picture. For some reason, he just really looks like a Von Trapp right there.
I think it's the hair and the blue eyes. He looks very Aryan.
He is super Aryan. Utah represent. So, we'll use that to kind of segue into our next segment, which is Keeping Up with the Cougars.
We're going to finally bring back Keeping Up with the Cougars. We took a week off or so. So this is where we're talking about the former BYU players that are now in the NFL, and wanted to start with this picture of Danny Sorensen and Kyle Van Noy standing right next to each other. This is the Chiefs and Patriots played over the weekend. And Chiefs won that one at the Patriots' home.
They did.
42-27. So
yeah, that was really cool to have in the very first game of the NFL season, 3 Cougars. Harvey Lungi definitely didn't play. I don't even think he dressed. But there were 3 Cougars involved, which is cool.
Yeah, and it was cool that you get this shot of them right next to each other.
I know. I loved that. That's from Hans Olsen. Okay, so we did want to say, after all was said and done, we obviously had a lot more people on teams during the preseason on rosters, right. But then they had to make their cuts for the 53-man roster a couple weeks ago, and these are the 4 that we ended up with. We have Jamal Williams on the Packers, Taysom Hill with the Saints, Harvey Lungi with the Patriots, and Kai Nakua with the Browns. So when we say 4, we mean from last year.
Yep, last year's roster.
And what is interesting about those 4?
Those are your 4 captains from last year, so that doesn't matter. I think it's cool to see. It's cool to see all 4 of them find spots on rosters.
Oh yeah,
and hopefully
on actual 53-man rosters, and those are your 4.
Yeah, Kai Nakua was one that we were a little nervous about because he got cut, signed to the practice squad, and then they elevated him back to the roster. So
we were feeling pretty bad for Kai getting jerked around like that, but he probably ended up happy because he ended up on that 53-man roster. He did not play in their opener, but hopefully that will change.
So going over some of their stats from the last few days, Kai Nakua did not play, Harvey Lungi did not play, but the guys that did play, Kyle Van Noy had 6 tackles, 5 of them solo. Good work, Kyle.
Great.
Danny had 3 tackles,
They were all
and
solo
all of
tackles.
them were solo. And then Ziggy Ansah, of course, had 1 tackle, also solo. So
Those
actually
are your
getting
more
in there,
established guys who got the playing time.
Yeah.
Taysom didn't dress last night for the Saints.
which I don't know if you expect him to. He's their 3rd-string quarterback,
Yeah.
so he's probably not going to play much.
No,
but-
probably not. But we will mention Jamal, too. So he did play. Yay, dressed and played. He had 2 carries for 9 yards. His long rush was 6 yards. But most importantly, his first NFL carry was for a first down. So that was very exciting.
That's pretty cool for him to be able to see. It's so neat to, like, see their faces in these
Jerseys and on the,
playing
yeah.
in the big games. It's
It
cool.
is.
Want to just update too. So Taysom Hill, as we know, was signed by the Saints, and he is still number 7.
Yeah, well, he had to be number 8 with the Packers because 7 was taken. But so in this new landing spot, he gets to represent, and I love that it's in honor of his late brother. That's special.
And then lastly, we wanted to just mention that Kyle Van Noy did sign a 2-year extension with New England. So he's found himself in a really good spot there with the Patriots.
So this is his first full year there. So he was there for part of the year last year for the Super Bowl and stuff, but it seems like they like him. And why wouldn't they? 6 tackles, 5 solo. That's a healthy contribution.
Brigham.
So that's keeping up with the Cougars. As for what's next, we've got BYU versus Wisconsin coming up. That is Saturday at 1:30 Mountain Time. That will be on ABC. And unfortunately, we heard it's with the same exact broadcast crew, the announcers, that it was last week. We were both there, so I didn't.
Were they bad?
You didn't hear about this?
Oh dear, no, I didn't.
You did you not see the Tyler Mangum graphic?
Oh, I did see
And then
that.
they were showing
Okay, yeah, that's
they were
pretty bad.
showing Bo Hodge, and they supered him as Micah Hanneman, and I think
'Cause
that
they're
that
both
was
number
just
7.
the beginning
Oops.
of the troubles.
Oh,
So I mean, they were
dear.
announcing names wrong, they were announcing stats wrong. So it was Tommy Tuberville and someone else. Anyway, same broadcast team. So sync it up with Greg and mute it, or that's just more encouragement to buy some tickets and get out to the stadium if you can.
We'll be there again.
Yes,
so I'm
yes.
not worried about it, but.
And if you can, go wear white.
Really, it's not every season, every year that you get a top 10 team into LaVell.
Oh
Edwards
yeah,
Stadium.
they
So this is a huge
are
opportunity.
number 10 in the country. So show up,
Pretty cool.
be loud, no matter how discouraged you are. I mean, say what you want about the Utah game, but the Rock showed up and showed out in that
They
atmosphere.
did, and they looked
that
amazing
atmosphere
in
was
Royal.
awesome.
It was fun.
So
Also, at halftime of that game on Saturday, they are doing the jersey retirement for number 6. So that would be Robbie Bosco, Luke Staley, and Mark Wilson. All 3 of them will have their jersey retired.
it's a big retirement there. Robbie Bosco
Yeah,
also ran
pretty
one
big
of the
That's true,
alumni
dude,
flags
you're
out.
right. Yep, so if you're there at the game, halftime, I'm sure they'll probably have video of it at some point, but yeah, look forward to that. We're brought to you this week by Steaks, or 3 Steaks?
3.
I don't know, yeah. As Bonnie Fuller explained about this Andy Reid dinner, he says that's 1 for eating now, 1 to store in each cargo pocket for later. It's pretty standard, right? So
Right, especially for Andy Reid, who does, to his credit, looks like he has lost a lot of weight. So shout out again to Coach Reid and for
And they beat the
Danny
Patriots.
for winning that game.
Good work.
Our second sponsor had to be Tom Homo. We know he's a sponsor that we go to a lot, but he really deserves it. He really is the best AD in all the land.
coolest.
This tweet was amazing. So the Cougar got vandalized. Shame on you Utes who did that.
shame on BYU for not wrapping the statues,
I
getting
know.
complacent and lazy. It's still a rivalry.
But Tom said that the Cougar cleans up well. 4 clowns. Love that clown emoji from up north. Apprehended. Literally caught red-handed with red paint on hands by BYU's finest. So nice to
Hashtag dumb
know
criminals.
that situation. Oh yeah, hashtag dumb criminals.
And he ran the flag out.
Yep.
For the game.
And that was
good fun.
awesome. Hashtag look it up you. Tom Homo is just out here owning people for us, and we love him for it. May you always stay loyal to the white and blue. For Jess, I'm Mary. We'll see you next week.